We'd like to call the meeting to order. If you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'll remain standing for a moment of silent prayer. The first item on the agenda are public comments. Any member of the public would like to go to the microphone and state your name and address?
Hello, my name is Joanne McCullum. I live at 1900 Tyler Road. And I have here a letter request for a light, overhead street lighting for McCartney and State, or State and McCartney. That is around where a pedestrian was fatally injured. It is very dark there, and along with traffic concerns and people walking, the youth, knowing that it's dark, they've had problems with the youth getting into trouble in that area. So the residents are requesting a light be placed at McCartney and State, and I have some signatures here in a letter if I can hand it to you.
Sure.
Okay.
Lisa? Thank you, Joanne.
Okay, and my next thing. Another thing is our concern for the street sweeping. One of the things is that it doesn't look good to have our streets only swept twice. Is it twice a season? Yeah. But what I did know, I did a little bit of research on street sweeping, and I found something that the EPA did a study. And I'll just read a few things that they said. They said street sweep garbage contains, this one study in Seattle, which is larger than here, so their mass of pollutant garbage is more than here, but we still have it too. But their study said they found 130 tons of water pollutants in the street gunk, whatever you want to call it, when they clean it up. And it contaminates the natural waterways if it does not get swept in a timely manner from the streets. And so the city practices frequent street sweeping to keep the water from becoming very polluted. And one of the things that they do is they make sure that they do have a schedule. I know that we don't necessarily have a schedule. It's sort of around the time, and we could sort of guess when. So we don't have an actual time that we can move our cars and things like that. And that's really important. I think that's why some of the areas, when it does get swept, it's missed, because you can't fault people if they don't know this street sweeper is coming out. So I don't know how that can be fixed, but that's a primary concern that keeps the streets from being swept in a more efficient way. Also,
Joanne, if I could just...
Yes, go ahead.
The city of Ypsilanti, and I think you know this, they have jurisdiction over their streets, and they actually have a public service department that, and they're 4 miles, and we're 32 square miles, but we have been fighting this battle with the road commission for, I don't know, and even the street sweeper, because they bid it out, I swear, it's no bigger than my car. It is the smallest street sweeper I've ever seen
Yeah.
for all the streets in the township.
Right.
So we will share concerns with them,
Okay.
and we've actually had them do 4 street sweepings in the past.
Okay.
But if you have a bad street sweeper,
Yeah.
it's not going to get it out of the gutter. And a recent email, going back and forth, was that they think, and we're trying to figure out a way to get people to adopt, like a drain or claim your drain,
Right.
which is to help keep it clean. I said, well, you have to get it really clean before anyone, would ever want to do it. And a lot of our residents, they do take care of the storm drain in front of their house.
Right.
But
I'm one of them.
most of our seniors and they do.
Yeah.
But so it is an issue. So we'll share it with them, and I would maybe you could also contact them directly and let them
I
know
sure
how
can.
concerned we
So
are.
this is the road commission that I would be contacting?
Yeah.
I sure will with my
And
nice
we'll let them
article
know as
here.
well. We'll
Okay.
let them know as well.
All right, thank you. My next thing that I have is, you probably are aware of this, I'm not sure, with the Parks and Rec. West Willow has partnered with the Parks and Recs on a grant with the National Recreation and Park Association. You've heard of it? Okay, yes. So we had a conference call today, and Angela went over the expectations and what things that we want. And for those who aren't familiar with it, it's a pilot program. It's a grant that they don't give you any money, but what they do is they give you resources and information. So that's kind of the monetary part of it. And so in the major theme, we're not the only park or the only state, but the major theme is how do we get people to the park in a safe manner, because a lot of people are not going to parks, these wonderful parks that we have, because they don't feel safe. So how can we work with the community and connect with the community so they can feel safe to come to the parks? And that's what the grant is about. So today was our first conference call. It went really well. And I just wanted to let you know that they're working with the association with West Willow Park. Is the pilot park that they're working with. So I'm very happy about that. And the other thing, last thing, is the emails for the Board of Trustees. When I go on the site, I can email everyone on the site, the Y-Town site. But when I'm on my personal email and I want to email someone, I don't know where your email, I have Brenda, yours, and Karen, and then Larry Doe, but I don't have anyone else's email. Are there cards out there, or? Not for the Board of Trustees.
I can send them to you, Joy.
Okay, why are they not on the site?
They're not on the site?
No, I didn't find them. I went under employees, and that's where you can email them right there. And
Yeah,
then
there's actually a reason, and it has something to do with IT. I don't understand what it is. Security with IT. So. Yes.
Years ago, the IT department recommended taking individual email addresses off our website, because websites that have those are used by hackers and other phishers. Phishing, I think, is the term they use, and they use those to harvest those email addresses to do phishing attacks and hacking attacks. And so what we have instead are these, it's like a form where you can send it, and when you send it, it goes right to their email, and then they can reply directly to you.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's the way it's going to be, huh?
I can send them.
I'll give you my email, Julie.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other public comment?
This is for you, Larry. My name is Arloa Kaiser. I live at 1421 Melvin Street. And about the street sweepers, one good way to get your street swept well is to take pictures if they do a crummy job. I don't know if it was a year or two ago, I took pictures, and they went over the street twice to make sure it was clean after pictures were taken, and I brought them to, I think, to the township. And I'm not sure if it was last year that they actually had signs up on the corners, and a lot of time if you're in a hurry going home you don't see the signs, but they did have some notification. And my second and last thing is this business about the school taxes, which is not on property owners per se, it is on businesses. My concern is, number one, if it's going to cost the businesses more money, it's going to cost all of us more to deal with these businesses. It's going to end up coming out of our pockets too. If we donate more money, and they're also talking about closing, well, I call it the Old Willow Run, or Old Willow Run, New Willow Run. I'm not really sure how that is together. Anyway, they're going to close that. And I hope that, according to these intelligent people on the school board and that type of thing, that this will not be another Kettering. They are paying, there is a group that is paying money to rent portions of the old Willow Run High School. And that is additional money. It's not tax dollars, it's additional revenue that they are using. So why do we need to pay, or the businesses need to pay more money in taxes? And what specifically, according to the paper, the money goes to run the school and pay for additional things. Isn't the money originally in a budget? So this is extra money. Can we not pay the debt or it towards the debt? And there still is supposedly a debt on the building because it's relatively new. And also I have heard that the township wants to make a rec center out of it. That's going to cost us money too, because it would come from tax money that goes to the township. And I'm opposed to that. And the neighborhood watch for Sugarbrook is, there is a person from the school, I don't know if the school board or whoever, is going to come to the Sugarbrook neighborhood watch meeting and supposedly explain it to us. But I'm opposed to this millage on our businesses.
Any other public comment? And if you could just address your questions to the chair.
I will.
Or
Robert
comment.
Harrison, 812 DeSoto, West Willow. I want to follow up on what Joanne was talking about as far as those street sweeping go. And is there any ordinance as far as when the fall of the year, all of the leaves that's in the street, mainly that's what the cause of the blockage of those drains are. And I think that if we could get some help there, we would be better off with our streets. And even now when people cut their grass, they cut it and sling all the grass right out into the street.
Yeah.
There should be something that's able to be done about this.
Yeah.
If you come over on DeSoto, last fall, I think with 5 or 6 houses, they got leaves like this high. Mm-hmm. So what they're going to do in the wintertime, they're just going to rot out there in the street and look like hell.
Right.
When you talk about getting your street swept. I'm not sweeping nobody's but mine, but I think there should be someone to come along and check those people as far as those leaves being out in the street. Mm-hmm. It would do a great deal to make our area look a lot better. Yeah. And I'm talking about all of West Willow, when you have those great big old trees that we have over there, and all of those leaves that fall in the fall of the year, and they just leave them lie.
Right. And there is a state law that you cannot put your grass clippings onto the road right away and go down to the storm, which causes the environmental issues. The leaves, there's not one. We don't.
Well, we need something done about it, and I'll contact you guys as soon as I see it happening again. Mm-hmm. I'll be calling you.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
My name is Laveda Weathers. I live at 1695 Cliffs Landing, apartment 102. A fellow resident just was talking about what's happening with the schools, making the comment with most of the sentences I heard. I would like to suggest to everyone in here, if you come to the school board meetings, you will get many of the facts that you need. And concerning the buildings, what's closing, what's not closing, what the money is spent for, and all of that. In addition to that, the superintendent is very willing to talk to anyone about addressing all of those concerns. I urge everybody in here to vote May the 2nd to keep the schools running, because that's not an additional tax, it's what we're already paying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Linda Mealy, and I live at 597 Eugene. Hello to the board. I would like to say a little bit about the articles we've been reading about the dumping that's coming out of state. I know, I don't know what y'all can do about it. I know there's not many places they can take it, but I think every state ought to take care of their own business. I don't think they need to bring it to us.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm E.L. Weathers, 1695 Cliffs Landing. I want to talk to you about a health and safety issue. I was coming off of I-94 the other night, and I came up on Huron Road, Street, and I went to turn left, going back into Ypsi. I couldn't see the divider in the highway there because it was dark. I think, and this might be a road commission item, but you guys can pass it along.
Oh, yeah.
That needs to be painted, with iridescent paint, so that you can see that thing if you're turning left, because I almost ran into it, and I'm very familiar with that.
Right. Thank you. That's a big. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda. We have the consent agenda, which is the minutes of the April 4th work session and regular meeting, statements and checks for April 18th, Choice Healthcare Deductible, ACH EFT for March of 2017, and Choice Healthcare Administration Fee for February of 2017.
So moved. Support.
And March 2017 Treasurer's Report. We have a motion by Eldridge, support by Doe. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the Attorney's Report. Mr. Winter?
Madam Chair, just a very brief update. Larry likes to hear the word brief, so I'll make it as short as possible. But on a positive note, I do think right now that the new trustees and all of the community are witnessing firsthand the payoff in regards to the Township Board's actions the last 8 or 9 years, which occurred in many neighborhoods because of the housing meltdown. We were, at some point in time, we were averaging 10 to 15 foreclosures a week, and there are now some weeks where we maybe have 1, 2, and sometimes we don't have any. And probably the other telling comment about that is that as the foreclosures continue to decrease significantly, the housing values are increasing and are rising. Many of these homes that we have gotten to court over and held the banks accountable and landlords who are not abiding by the codes, many of these properties have now been sold, and the values that you're seeing them actually sell for, many of them are returning to the 2008 timeline, and some are actually increasing far beyond the 2008 selling price. And so the point I'm making right now is that even though it's been a very, very difficult 9-year period, we are now seeing that many of the streets are being rehabilitated in terms of the houses that were vacant, one at a time. We still have a lot of work to do ahead of us, but you're going down the right path and trying to follow and stay true to the so-called broken window theory, where if you go down the street and you see a house that's not been taken care of, or if it's boarded up and things of that nature, it tends to really have a negative impact upon adjacent property owners. It's not fair to them. And Mr. Harrison mentioned the example of the leaves in the street and things that just give not necessarily a very good appearance. And all these things we can do to continue to stabilize the residential neighborhoods are going to be important. And I'm trying to share with the new trustees, again, some of the success stories, because some of these started back 2 or 3 years ago, and you're now just starting to see the new owners take hold of some of these properties that were very much a problem for the township and the neighborhoods during the last 9 years. As a follow-up to the last board meeting, I have approved, from a legal standpoint, the 2 contracts that the township board authorized at the last board meeting. One was for the community center roof, and the other was for the community center golf course cart path. Those have been approved. Also, I wanted to go back and double check on the one item that trustee Monica Ross Williams raised in regards to ensuring that the contractor pays the prevailing wage rate. And in the contracts, there's actually a listing of all the different trades by the Washtenaw County Clerk, which verify both the prevailing wage rate and the prevailing fringe benefit rates that have to be adhered to by these contractors. And so as we have contracts on township properties, township buildings, we're going to ensure that the contractors who are doing those, are awarded those contracts and are going to hire employees to perform those duties, that they are in fact paid what we know to be a prevailing wage rate and a fringe benefit, and those are in the contracts, and I have approved those accordingly. At the same time, we continue to work with the fire chief and Treasurer Doe and Giovanna and other members of the township's human resources in regards to the ongoing firefighter negotiations for 2016. We're not in a position to report back in regards to any progress beyond the fact that we're meeting and have more meetings scheduled here in the near future. I continue to monitor the ongoing Tyler Dam situation, because that's going to be, the Tyler Pond is being lowered to accommodate both the new development for the American Center for Mobility, and also because of the township being under a mandate to remove the dam. At the same time, we did negotiate $1 million with the owners of the former General Motors property to contribute towards that cost. We received $700,000 to date, with the remaining $300,000 to be forthcoming. We also received our first pilot payment on this property last week for $18,000. It's for the township only. Going forward, as the investment is made, we know that the pilot payments are going to continue to increase very significantly. So there's a lot of moving parts going on at any given time in the township, whether it's public nuisance cases, firefighter negotiations, ongoing economic development issues. And so there's a lot of things coming your way. And that's just kind of a little bit of a summary tonight. And I'm just kind of disappointed that nobody ever asked for my email address. Everybody wants everybody. No one asked for my email address, but that's okay. But anyways, I'm going to keep on sending out my letters and keep the board informed as to what's going on. And if you want my email address, I'll give it to you as well, okay?
It might cost you.
Might cost you. Okay. That concludes my report this evening.
Any questions or comments? I do remember in 2008 when we started getting all the foreclosures, we get notified of them, and it was anywhere between 5 and 20 a week, every week. And I'm happy to say there's now less than 5, usually 1 or 2, and there's been a few weeks where we had actually no foreclosures. So there is stability that's coming, and taxable value is increasing, home values are increasing. We just have to keep working hard and keeping the community clean and presentable and safe, and together I know we can do it. Under new business, we have budget amendment number 6. Clerk Rowe.
Yes, I have a motion to amend the 2017 budget. This is budget amendment number 6, to increase the building fund budget by $3,680 to $729,622, and approve the line item changes outlined, and to increase the motor pool budget by $26,933,276,964, and approve the line item changes outlined, and that's for an agenda item that's later on, to purchase a vehicle for a ordinance officer who is returning. Thank you.
So moved.
Gratefully.
Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the budget amendment. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is request authorization to sell Ypsilanti Township owned parcel K1110386023, which is located at 855 Auburndale, in the amount of $5,000 to Habitat for Humanity, to be used as part of the Washtenaw Community College Youth Build Grant, to be sold as a Habitat home when completed.
So move.
Support.
Motion Rowe, support Gerald Rowe. Are there questions or comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a comment is that I actually grew up on Auburndale Street, and I'm so excited to see that Habitat's working with the college to really go over in that community. I'd love to move back someday.
Thank you. There is a letter in the packet, and it says that Habitat was approached by Washtenaw Community College to be a partner as part of a youth build grant that was awarded. Through this grant, Washtenaw Community College will work with at-risk youth ages 16 to 24, teaching them important skills, including 2 days a week of construction. Washtenaw Community College has the funds to construct a Habitat-sized 1,000 square foot home on a basement using students and faculty. They are in need of a parcel of land and have approached the township about the parcel at 855 Auburndale. Habitat would like to purchase the parcel as part of the partnership. Under the grant terms, the youth build projects need to work on a house to be sold to a family of low income. It may take 12 months or more for construction to be completed, but they will likely work on the house 2 days per week. Habitat will purchase the parcel from the township for $5,000. Habitat will take ownership of the property and properly insure the project and its participants. When the project is complete, Habitat will sell the home to a family that has gone through the normal Habitat process. So in 12 to 18 months, new Habitat homeowners will reside at 855 Auburndale, which is currently a vacant lot. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3 is Resolution 2017-08, which is to abandon the interest in a certain undeveloped platted park, as well as any right-of-way interest in adjacent unimproved roadways. Clerk Rowe.
I have Resolution 2017-08, whereas the Charter Township of Ypsilanti Board of Trustees has received a request to abandon and discontinue all of its interests in a certain undeveloped platted park, as well as any right-of-way interest it may possess to the unimproved Collegewood Drive, Roosevelt Boulevard, and Maltbash Road, immediately adjacent thereto, all of which are located on the west side of Hewitt Road, north of Washtenaw Ave, and more particularly described in attachments A and B. Whereas the board is aware that the County Board of the Board of County Road Commissioners, of the County of Washtenaw has approved a resolution to abandon the right-of-way interest to the unimproved roads mentioned as recorded on February 8, 2017 in Uber 5190 at page 874 of the Washtenaw County Records, which is attachment C, and whereas it appears from viewing the premises and hearing the petitioner's reasons that it is in the best interest of the township's interest in the undeveloped park and adjacent unimproved roads as proposed be absolutely vacated and abandoned. Now therefore be it resolved that the Charter Township of Ypsilanti Board of Trustees, that the trustees' interest in the undeveloped park and adjacent unimproved lands is hereby absolutely abandoned, vacated, and discontinued. And be it further resolved that the notice of this resolution be given by the Township Clerk to the Board of County of Road Commissioners, the State Department of Transportation, and recorded with the Register of Deeds of Washtenaw County. I would so move the resolution.
Support.
Motion Rowe, support Doe. Discussion?
Madam Chair. Just
See Ross Williams?
Thank you. As I said in the work session, for those who may not have been here, my concern is making sure that the people that live in property around this particular area are notified. So I just want to make sure that that concern was addressed on the record.
Any other questions or comments? Attorney Winters, would you just briefly go over the process again?
Well, I think what I mentioned during the work session is that this is basically just a way for the property owner to go to circuit court to seek the formal process of abandoning this paper plat. And at that point in time, there'll be a lot of required notices to be sent out to anyone within a certain radius. I think right now it's a very arduous process to go through. I think probably in this situation here, the Road Commission has already given the same kind of resolution, knowing that the burden rests upon the property owner to go forward to trigger this legal process. I do think right now that, I think Mr. Resnick did indicate during the work session that the properties in the immediate area are all vacant properties right now, and it's not being maintained by the township. And I believe the township only is listed as being the owner by default, because any type of a public dedicated parcel that, even though it's not developed, it has to be assigned to someone as the owner. And I think the township was assigned the owner, much like it is in some of the subdivisions where we're designated the owner of any alleys or walk pathways between neighborhoods and everything. So I do think the resolution still, if the board decides to vote on this, it does require the property owner to go to circuit court, follow all the notice requirements under the state statute, which, as we know, can be a very, very labor-intensive process. So hopefully, we don't see these very often, and we've only done a few of these ourselves as a township. And again, I don't know exactly as to how long it will take Mr. Leclerc to do this if he does get the green light to go forward, but it's not a very easy process.
Just as a point of information, who petitioned it? Because it said a petition from 7 freeholders of the Township of Ypsilanti petitioned for the abandonment. Do you know who those 7 people were? Or do we know? That's not in the packet, so I didn't know. No? I mean, I was just wondering.
I don't know their names, but I do know that Mr. Leclerc owns property around it, as do some other private individuals. And they have all joined together to collaborate on the future office development. So my assumption is that that's who those individuals are collectively.
I did look up the Google aerial map, and it would stop the traffic from going through the residents right by their home. So, I mean, I'm hoping that the residents agree that this is a better plan than what was platted, because the development started and then it stopped. And I know we've abandoned alleyways that are behind houses in West Willow and Sugarbrook. And Mr. Winters is right, it's a very lengthy process, and you have to notify each property owner adjacent to it, and they have a right to object to it.
And whatever the future holds in terms of development, will have to pass muster with our planning commission and the board if it should be rezoned in order to do that. So.
Well, there's a pretty large amount of trees right behind the residents. I would hope in the planning commission, we could protect those trees for the residents to have a buffer as it, if it proceeds.
Yep.
Any other questions? The Attorney McLean Winters has asked that we do a roll call vote on this. Rowe?
Yes.
Eldridge?
Yes.
Ross Williams?
No.
Clerk Rowe?
Yes.
Larry Doe?
Yes.
Jimmy Wilson?
Yes.
And Stumbo votes yes. So it's approved. The next item is a request to approve agreement with the Washtenaw County Road Commission for 2017 local road dust control. We do this every year, and they'll come back with a sweeping contract too, in the amount of $5,682.60, which is budgeted in line item 212-212-000-818-006.
So moved.
Support.
Motion Rowe, support Wilson Jr. Questions or comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is request of Mike Radzik, OCS Director, for authorization to seek legal action if necessary to abate public nuisance for property located at 940 Minion, 1405 Ecorse, 3150 West Michigan Avenue, and 829 East Michigan Avenue in the amount of $40,000, which is budgeted in line item 101-950-000-801-023.
So moved.
Motion Rowe,
Support.
support Doe. Discussion?
Madam Chair, I was,
Trustee Rossman.
thank you. I wanted to see if I could offer a friendly amendment in order to remove 1405 Ecorse to give the opportunity for the, assuming it appears because the attorney is here, for the attorneys to discuss this matter further to try and have some type of resolution before taking this action.
So there's a friendly request to remove 1405 Ecorse.
Support.
We have a motion. So Rowe, you're the maker of the motion, correct?
I mean, do I concur?
Do you accept the friendly amendment?
Not really, no. So we could just vote on our motion, and I'll just explain that because the motion that you're making doesn't have any bearance on the original motion, because the original motion allows that to still happen. That's the way that we always do business here. We always resolve before we actually go to court. So I think both parties are all willing to do that, so I don't see us going to court anyways, but it's just, because we got to this point, because I think that's what helped everybody come to the table. And so anyways, that would be, so I don't think your motion makes any difference to what's going to go on. Yeah.
Point of information?
Yes.
Okay. We're voting on all these together, if I have it correct, or are we not?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Madam Chair, just earlier I didn't say this in the work session, and it's unfortunate that some of you guys left. First of all, it's great to see people here in attendance tonight. I wish it would happen more. But I would just like to personally say my parents live 2 blocks away from the Elks Club. I've been around it. I live on that side of town, so I understand the importance of it. But I also, feel this great sense of obligation to make sure that our community is safe. Many of you probably don't know, but I am a registered nurse. Work in an operating room. We see people that come in with gunshot wounds. And so it's a very real thing to me. And every person sitting in this audience, your safety matters to me, as well as your family, your friends, your children. And so, I hope that we're absolutely able to work this out. But I do want you to just hear that from my perspective, I absolutely have your best interest at heart.
Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Trustee Tucker.
the only issue I have, I see with these 4 properties, our OCS director, he noted that there was, for 3 out of the 4, there were complaints from neighbors. He doesn't really list that in the location at 1405. However, I know that over the years there were issues back in the day. But as Mr. Coleman said earlier, they've definitely tried to come up with ways to cut down on the issues that they've had. And it seems that one incident wouldn't warrant this to come to the agenda, but it just really doesn't make sense to, one incident has happened after so long of not having incidents. Since they're all grouped together, I'd have to vote against it.
because of that. But if we were able to table that one address until the meeting in May to see what they can come up with, that seems to be the better option.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair?
Trustee Williams?
Thank you. I would support that idea by Trustee Wilson. Also, for the 3 other properties, I just want to make sure it's clarified just in case I do have to vote against this. I'm not necessarily in disagreement with the 3 other properties. I think the information that has been shared in regards to why this is being sought, it has been clear. But in regards to 1405 E-Course, considering that there are a number of people here in this audience that look like they want to have a resolution of some type to this, if I have to, I will vote against all of them because I want to make sure that that resolution, that opportunity is given to the individuals.
Madam Chair, can I just I just want to make sure I understand this. As a new trustee, we haven't done a lot of these, so I want to make sure that I'm understanding. This gives Mike permission, or we're giving them the go-ahead, the attorney to go ahead and talk about legal counsel with this, if necessary. That does not mean that it's automatically going to happen. It doesn't mean, that it's not going to happen. It's just they're holding in sort of abeyance probably isn't the right word. But so I'm understanding that correctly. It doesn't just happen tomorrow.
Attorney Winter?
Well, that's correct. What happens, probably the key words is the 2 words, if necessary. And on all these cases, quite frankly, they're all going to be a challenge in their own right. And so the goal is to have dialogue and conversation and involve all the stakeholders in any of these properties that are before the board this evening, and to see if you can carve out a pathway that's going to be balanced and fair to the community, the property owners, adjacent neighbors. And so right now, there's not going to be a lawsuit filed tomorrow or next week and on any of these properties because there's a lot to go into getting a lawsuit prepared. And what I would anticipate in regards to the 1405, because I'm not even, according to the township's assessing records, I'm not sure exactly. At one time there was a land contract on this property. I'm not sure if that land contract is still, the right owners are on that contract, are on the assessing records. And I think there's going to be some due diligence required for us to proceed in a way that would require a lot of dialogue and conversations. And if there's good faith going back and forth on both sides, and I don't have any reason to believe that there wouldn't be, I think that reasonable minds can come to a resolution. I just don't know exactly. We can't just, at some point in time, if that breaks down, the conversation breaks down, and on any of the properties, then obviously the board's already weighed in saying you have authorization to go. But just for clarity's sake for all the new board members as well as the audience, when authorization is given, that's the last resort. That's the last resort. But it's a genuine resort if there's not a resolution. So what I would anticipate happening right now is the fact that 1405 has already retained an attorney. I would think that it would be to everyone's advantage to have that conversation sooner rather than later. And so I have some ideas as to what could possibly be part of that resolution, and that's the kind of conversation that I would anticipate having in regards to not only 1405, but some of the other ones, because these are very challenging, separate, but different type of issues than we've seen in the past. When you have a abandoned and vacant property, those are much easier to see what the problem is and what the resolution is going to be. All of these are going to have a unique challenge to them because some of them are ongoing business concerns as they exist today. So to answer your question, it may be longer than what you wanted to hear, Heather, is just basically the goal is to get a resolution worked out, have good faith negotiations, conversations, dialogue. If we can work it out, fine. If we can't, then the board has weighed as to what will happen if we don't do this. But in the past, it's been the one of last resort. I think Supervisor Stumble has always emphasized the words "if necessary," even when she reads the motion, because it's not. If it wasn't, if we're going to go to court immediately, then those two words are not even part of the motion. And we've done that before. We've authorized to go to court on a padlock case. It had nothing to do with, if necessary. We know if there's a house that's selling drugs, we don't wait for negotiations. We move forward quickly. These are the ones that are more difficult because you do try and find common ground, and a lot of times you can. But at the same time, the board, by actually making the authorization, if necessary, at least weighs in as to the seriousness of some of the concerns that have occurred that have prompted this to come to the board to begin with. And I think that, one size does not fit all, and some of these have to be looked at in a way that what's the best solution for one may not be the same as the other ultimately, because they're all different competing concerns. But I think that that's what it means from the standpoint, to me, the board authorized tonight, if necessary. It requires us to exhaust all of our time to make sure that we can resolve this. And if not, you'll get letters saying, we resolved this, we haven't resolved this. Any resolution that would come out of those conversations would come back to the township board too. So if we have a consent, I don't say consent judgment, but if we had a consent agreement that we wanted the board to weigh in on, then we would bring that back before we agree to it anyway. So this is just the beginning of a process that sometimes, hopefully, won't take months. It might take some weeks. But I think everybody has the incentive to do it sooner rather than later. You're going into the summertime where you have a lot of things going on, people's vacation schedules, etc. And so we will move fast and quick in trying to get a resolution. But I hear the words "if necessary," just so you understand. I know what that means to me, based upon the past. We don't do it immediately. We do it if necessary, which in this case, as I think Monica pointed out, the fact that people are here, attorney's been retained, that those are all good indicators that this is going to be one that dialogue is going to occur very quickly.
Madam Chair, just one or two. I also just had I think Trustee Wilson brought up the resident complaints, and I didn't know if, Mike, you could speak to that. If I don't want to make you get up, you can just say yes or no. But if you know of residents that have reported anything from this location.
Before Mike speaks, I was going to respond to Trustee Wilson. Like neighbors didn't know that this was on the agenda, but at the Neighborhood Watch group, this issue has come up. So their night is the same night as we have here on Tuesday night. So we don't get to attend as much, but this issue has been an issue there. And they keep asking, what are we going to do about it? It's a continual problem. And we've had agreements in the past, but it's never been memorialized really and officially. And I know at least 3 times I've sat down and been over to the club and tried to work things out. I do know we can resolve it. Of course, 2 minds getting together, right? We can work it out. But I think by memorializing it and making it official, I think it's important.
To answer your question, the only complaints that directly from neighboring property owners that I'm aware of, some of the businesses, the other 3 businesses on that corner have complained over time about patrons from the lodge parking in their parking lot when they're closed at night. And the most recent one of those was a few years ago, in all fairness. And there was an agreement at that time that they moved forward to have the property posted with local towing companies where the tow trucks could come and just tow those vehicles away if they're parked there when those businesses are closed. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the lodge agreed to try to inform their patrons not to park in those places. Other than that, twice I received written petitions from several dozen residents of Davis Street who were very upset that the club wasn't providing enough parking on its premises for the number of people in the building, and therefore people were parking on the near streets, and they were picking up litter, like beer bottles and whatnot, the morning after. And they actually submitted written petitions signed by a bunch of neighbors at that time, pretty much demanding that we do something. And we were able to, we thought, resolve it at that time. And back, I think it was in 2011, after a serious incident, there was a meeting with the elected officials on our staff, the sheriff's department, and we reached an agreement similar to what we're talking about trying to achieve here tonight. And we didn't go to court. And I tried to memorialize it in a letter to the leadership of the lodge that spelled out everything they agreed to do and everything the township and the police agreed to do. And unfortunately, there were still a few, incidences after that. So we've had much success in situations like this where both parties are willing to sit down and talk and reach some agreement. But having the ability to, as I think it's been described, memorializing that in the form of a consent agreement, not an adversarial lawsuit, but one where both parties come and say, we both consent to all these things. It's entered with the court, and then later on, if there is a problem, which hopefully there would never be, then it can be enforced. Without that, there is no way to enforce, an agreement otherwise. So that's pretty much my thinking on it at this point. I'm hoping we can reach an amicable agreement with the ability to consent to placing it on the record with the court for everyone's protection. Everybody then knows exactly what everyone agreed to do and what the expectations are going forward.
And it's important to know it's not the Elks Club. It's for the parties that are there after. It's not the Elks. I mean, that's their facility. And people coming to the events and not going inside and hanging out in the parking lot. I mean, we didn't put in the packet a lot of the information that would be needed if we did go to court, but that is going to be provided to Ms. Washington so you can sit down. But we know, and we have an agreement that is pretty...
It included fencing the parking lot.
Everything that we're talking, cameras, security.
That was about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So when Ms. Washington and I spoke on the phone today, we talked about it, and I told her, between my township work and then my work previously with the sheriff's department, I've been doing this here for 36 years. So I was patrolling those streets long before the lodge was there. It was a different type of bar.
Hallway.
And there were entertainment world, and there were problems when it was entertainment world, and I'm not aware of a single incident of a problem at the Elks Club when it was anything other than an event for people that weren't necessarily members. Right. So like you said, I'm not aware of a single problem with the membership. It's folks that attend events when they're hosted or the facility is rented out. I'm not sure exactly what those arrangements are. But that seems to be.
We had the same issues at the hookah lounge, and
well, we've gone after two different hookah lounges, and we had similar problems at Papio Bar at Hewitt and Ellsworth several years ago, and
we rented it out.
Yes, and it was resolved very similarly.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I just thought, because I know Trustee Wilson had indicated that it was just this one thing, and I think probably agree with you, it was one thing, but my understanding, there's lots of calls for service, and a lot of them are in recent times, and that's kind of like, did I understand that right or not?
I'm sorry?
That there's actually been, maybe not a major incident for a while, but there's been a lot of calls for service and stuff regarding this address. It wasn't just this one incident that led to this being put on our agenda.
I would have to refer back to what the Sheriff's Department recently gave us. They gave us a summary. It's a 3-ring binder, probably, I don't know, about that thick. And it does go back a number of years, in fairness. And my gut sense is that the number of incidences has dwindled the past few years. It's been quieter than it has been prior to that. But yet, this most recent thing did occur, and all we want to do is try to figure out a way to work together to prevent this type of thing from happening. Right. Yes. As well as the maintenance issues, which have kind of been nagging the place for some time.
And one more thing, If I can, Supervisor. We, like, I think traditionally, or almost always, not almost always, but on lots of occasions when we actually authorize, we have the folks who we're authorizing to go to court against, and they come here and ask, the same, and then it always works out. They always end up selling because of the fact that they're interested and they come here to the board meetings and stuff, that we still move forward with the action, and then they, resolve those, frequently once the board authorizes that. So kind of
The two most recent ones I
tradition.
can think of, it was just a few weeks ago that you authorized a drug padlock case on Wired Road at a house. We reached an amicable agreement with the owner, and then a consent agreement was entered with the court. Same thing with Abcat Auto Repair on Ecorse Road. We were able to work it out between the attorneys and the staff and their employees, and there was a consent agreement that was entered with the court where we all mutually agreed there was no fight over it.
So for me, part of it is just a sense of fairness for kind of what we've always done. I'm not saying what you always do is always right, because it's not, but I know it's worked for us up to this point.
We have a motion.
I'm sorry, yeah, Madam Chair. And thank you for bringing up those two recent things that have came before the board. Either one of those meetings, I don't remember seeing people from ABCAT or Wyatt Road here in order to try and resolve the situation. But I just wanted to clarify one more thing, especially because I know this has came up a lot of time in regards to the maintenance issue, and specifically the parking lot. There are other parking lots in the area that are about as needing of maintenance as you all's. So, in fact, I drove around there today and I saw that. So I just wanted to make sure that was clarified for the record.
Report it.
Yeah, those reported, yeah.
So we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
2 nays. Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is request of Jeff Allen, Residential Services Director, to publicly sell 6 desks currently being stored at Ford Lake Park and to dispose of remaining desks that do not sell.
So move.
Support.
Motion Rose, support Eldridge. Any questions on this? It's odd. We're required to do this by law. You can't just donate old, unusable desks. You have to put it out for public sale, according to our auditor. So we have to go through this process. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is request to set a public hearing date of Tuesday, May 16, 2017 at approximately 7 o'clock p.m. for the creation of Neighborhood Camera Streetlight Special Assessment District for the Manors at Creekside Village.
Move to approve.
So, motion Doe, support Eldridge. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is request of Jeff Allen, Residential Services Director, to purchase a 2017 Ford Explorer for use in the Office of Community Standards in the amount of $26,513 with all-weather floor mats in the amount of $125 and reverse sensing in the amount of $295 for a total amount of $26,933, which is a Michigan deal pricing contract. Budget in line item 595-595-000-985-000.
So move.
Support.
Motion Rowe, support Doe. Are there questions on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There's no other business.
On point of special privilege.
Clerk Rowe.
I just wanted to announce, if you haven't heard, but we had 2 Washtenaw County robotics teams, one out of the Ypsilanti Community Schools and the Lincoln Community Schools, which their team is a rookie team, who actually made it through out of 480-some teams at the state robotics competition this past weekend in Saginaw, and they're actually going to the world champion. Well, and they were up against, there were schools out of Ann Arbor and Pioneer and Skyline and Green Hills and Rudolph Steiner with a lot more funds and a lot more support, and our 2 East Side schools made it, so we're real excited about them. So.
Under authorization and bids, We have the request of Eric Copeland, our fire chief, to seek sealed bids for replacement of 2 furnaces and air conditioning units at fire headquarters located at 222 South Ford Boulevard.
So moved.
Support.
Motion Eldridge, support Wilson Jr. Any question? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. A motion to adjourn?
Second.
So moved. Somebody?
So moved.
Moved by Eldridge, supported by Gerald Rowe. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned, 7:59.